Welcome to another powerful episode of the Mind Your Business podcast, the show where we speak truth, drop knowledge, and deliver strategies to help business leaders win in life and in business. And I'm your host, Max Fortune. And today we're digging into something deeper than profit and loss. We're actually asking a critical, culturally loaded, and spiritually reflected question, and that is, are we all on the wrong battlefield? In today's climate of division, distraction, and economic disparity, many of us are fighting battles that don't feed us, they don't free us and don't fund us. And that's a problem. So, to explore this complex but crucial topic, I have the honor of being joined by a remarkable man, Theodies Mitchell. He's a poet, veteran, thought leader, and former CDC public health advisor who has lived through the battlegrounds of war, civil rights, public service, and personal growth. From the U.S. Air Force to poetic introspection, Theodis brings a unique voice and powerful lived experience, really, to today's conversation. So that's why we have him here. And so he's the author of The Heart of a Bull, a poetic reflection of 50 years of life and love, and The Wrong Battlefield, which details his dual journey through military service and the civil rights movement. So this episode is not just about business, it's about the soul of our leadership and how we define the battles we fight. So buckle up. It's going to be a little deep and necessary a ride. So let's welcome Mr. Theodies Mitchell to the show. And I wish I had some hand claps, but we don't have those. We ran out of that on the budget. So let's welcome Mr. Theodies Mitchell. And Theodies, listen, I just want to say thank you for joining us. I want to really just kind of jump right into your book, The Wrong Battlefield. And it's both personal and prophetic. And so let's kind of start there. And I want to actually kind of can you describe what inspired you to write The Wrong Battlefield?
Well, The Wrong Battlefield is a collection of poems that go about maybe 50 years. I mean, if you notice, um, each chapter in the book is a time period and a place that I was.
Mhm.
So it's like a journey.
Wow.
So I didn't just sit and write it. I wrote the poems as I was going through the experiences.
Wow. Wow.
And it was sort of like a journal.
Right. I was going to say, it seems like
Right.
a journal.
Some people keep journals. I wrote poetry,
Wow.
and I started doing that as a kid.
Wow.
My dad was in the army. We traveled. I didn't have many friends, so I wrote.
Wow.
So anyway, towards the end of my career was when I started thinking about doing a book. And people encouraged me to do it because it told a story.
Wow.
So that's how the book came about.
So it's kind of like your journey as you were going through things, you were writing everything
Yes,
you were going through as you were going through it. So it's
yes.
pretty fresh. And um, yeah, I think that's pretty amazing. And I always find writing personally therapeutic in a sense because it just is an outlet and it kind of gets you a way of not keeping things in, but kind of uh, getting it out. And that's always better. Um, so, um, and so, how did serving in the military during the civil rights era shape kind of your understanding of really things like loyalty, identity, and even justice? What was that like?
Well, it was really interesting. And in fact, I used to think that they should have kept the draft going because for young men, it helps you decide where you're going, who you are, who you want to be, and that's the opportunity it gave me. Now, although I went in during the civil rights movement when, everything was going on there, in the military, it was going on too.
Mhm.
But the Air Force is making steps to equalize, and balance the scales. So, uh, I learned things. Uh, the experiences I had, kind of helped shape and mold my thinking.
Mm.
I was young when I went into Vietnam. I was old when I came away from Vietnam.
Wow. Yeah. Yeah.
And then what I went through to get my life back together also shaped the person you're looking at now.
Wow. How
You
old were
know,
you when you were in Vietnam? Just
19.
19. Wow.
Mm.
So what is that like being 19, a teenager, and you're just watching and processing everything that's happening? What's that like?
Well, back then the military was more rigid in the training. Our basic training was a lot rougher and different than it is now.
No.
So,
Wow.
and like and you're thinking. In fact, when I went to Vietnam, by the time I got ready to go, my mindset was I'm doing it for my country, and I'll die if I have to.
Wow.
I mean, that's just
Right,
the
right,
way
right,
it is.
right.
I might not come back. You know, although I stay drunk, all of us did.
It's a way of coping. It just, yeah, yeah. I just can't imagine what that's like to, as a teenager. You're kind of, I think it's very honorable, tremendously honorable that at that young age, when you're just thinking life is a beginning for you, you're willing to give it up for your country. I think I don't know that, I mean, that's a profound thing to do and to want to do.
Mhm.
You know what I mean? And to your second point about the draft or whatever, I, but but to your point, I think what's great about that is, for what I think I heard you saying in that statement was that sometimes that it gives you direction or it helps you because it's just 4 years. You're 19, 23, you're coming out. You still have your whole life there, but you have some direction, some discipline, and some great things that you kind of took away from that that probably shaped the rest of your career, how you did things. And so, did I get that right? It's a
Yes, you did. I mean, for example, I mean, you mentioned, I'm a public health advisor. Also, I got my master's in counseling. But in Vietnam, being as how, I had gone through a lot before I got there, a lot of people who were younger and more afraid than I was, I was able to kind of carry them along.
wow.
I mean, I was as afraid as they were, but I tried to show strength to, hey man, it's gonna be okay. You
And
know,
did that also help you in turn? Yeah,
exactly.
yeah.
And when I left there, I was ready-made counselor.
Listen, I'm gonna tell you something. If you can get through war, you can get through that kind of stuff. It's nothing, not much you can't do. I would imagine. You know what I mean? Especially dealing with just regular people and that I just like I said, it's thank you for your service. I should have started off with that.
Thank you.
Oh, but I want to go back to the thing you said. You've written poetry since childhood, and I want to talk about how has your art kind of like helped you process what we were just talking about, trauma or conflicting allegiances, even.
Good question.
Yeah.
You mentioned earlier about it being therapeutic.
Mhm.
Yes, absolutely. I had a kind of rough childhood. I don't know who my mother was. Uh, I can, well, anyway, I went through a lot as a child. So that's why I could put my thoughts down,
Wow.
being a lonely kid and all that good stuff. Okay. When I started writing as an adult, it was writing experiences. And, like in therapy, they encourage you
Right.
to write. We encourage you to write. And it helped. And that helped me. And I started doing it. Instead of writing a journal, for me, it was more challenging to do a poem.
Wow.
So I have lots of poems that I'd write about everything. And it helped me to vent, to release. Yeah, I had a lot of anger, and I had a lot of anger before I went to Vietnam. When I came back, I had double the anger. but
Wow.
but see, again, the writing, as you aptly noted, was therapeutic, and it is still therapeutic.
And you know what? I tell people all the time that even today, and we're talking about a lot of the parallel between the wrong battlefield and today's things. And one of the things that I kind of start my morning off every day is writing. So I have what I call a thanks living journal. So I
Hmm.
write what I'm thankful for every day when that's how I start my mornings, And I do that because it's kind of hard to be uh, it's hard to be depressed when you're thanking God, when you got something you can thank God for. And it's all something we all can be thankful for. And I just kind of center my day on that. And it just helps it start the way. But going back to writing is it's an outlet. It is a way and it's whatever way works for you. If it's poetry, if it's writing a story, or if it's just writing your thoughts and ideas down. I agree with you. I think writing can be a great way of an outlet and just letting your things out so it's not pent up and it's you know it's just not pent up anymore. You kind of have that outlet. You get it out there, and a lot of times that someone can help someone else. Or your thoughts and ideas. I'm sure we're. The funny thing is sometimes we think we're alone in what we're doing, but this journey we're generally never alone. The only person who's ever gone through whatever we're going through and the documentation of that helps can be therapeutic to other people, not only just yourself. So I think that that's my personal view of why I think writing is good, and that you've been able to share your thoughts. Um,
And you're right, if I may, because again, I can go back and read, something I wrote maybe 10 years ago that's applicable now,
wow.
and it helps me.
And you know what?
Those thoughts and those feelings are right there.
And you said you were writing the journey, you were writing this stuff as you were living it. So how is it going back and reading it? Like you're saying, kind of go back and reading some of the stuff that you wrote when you were in your early 20s, or how was that?
Great. I mean, again, yeah, I sometimes I read back and did I write that?
Wow.
And by the same token, too, it sort of uh, uh, lets me know that what I'm going through now, I've gone through before.
Mm.
So it helps keep me kind of balanced too, because life seems to be uh, a circle. You know, everything you've experienced has been experienced before. Someone has experienced it. So,
And will be experienced again, to
hmm
your point,
yeah,
And so I think that's profound. So not only did you get the benefit of writing it when you did, but reading it later, second benefit,
hmm
being able to kind of be ongoing therapeutically,
yes.
you know, which is pretty amazing. And so I do want to ask you, like, in your view, for you, I want to know, what does it mean for someone to be on the wrong battlefield today? What does that mean?
Well, I it the culture has changed so much from when I was young and a kid, and it, sometimes it's hard to keep up as an old man. I joke about that with some of my friends. We talk about that a lot. But today, with so many things going on, and and I try not to think too hard on it, because when I start thinking hard on it, if I really get caught up in all the media and all that good stuff, I'm reminded that, hey, this makes me feel like deja vu.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I can remember back in the 60s, in a small town in Alabama, Newbern, Alabama, when you had to step off of the sidewalk if white people was coming, when you had to go around to the back of,
Wow.
of a restaurant or store, when you had different bathrooms and water fountains. I remember all of that. And I can remember feeling like a second class citizen. So some of the stuff that comes up now, gives me a feeling of deja vu,
Mm.
and sometimes I can see where it can trigger people too.
Right, right.
People have a lot of anger now, so a lot of things are triggering them. I'm sure
Mm.
because of a whole lot of stuff going on. Me, I just try to stay balanced on it and kind of not be triggered.
Yeah, and it's tough. It is tough today. And so my way of doing that is really, I kind of get my news. As crazy it may sound, is on YouTube. I can kind of scroll through and just
Mm,
decide. Sometimes just from the
yeah,
headlines, you kind of get the idea, without the sensationalism.
right.
But I'm very guarded about the information I take in every day. I'm just super guarded by that, and I hope that people understand that. Uh, you've got to protect your mindset to get through, and it is challenging. It's a challenging time for anybody. I know for really all of us.
Mhm.
But there's ways to get through it, and I think we will get through it. If we got through all the stuff that we've been through already in this country, we'll get through this again. So I think my philosophy or my thought process is there are so many pitfalls and things like that that have been placed, and we have been able to circumvent those things or get around them and get through them, and to still be here and thriving for many of us, and just doing each generation doing better than the one before. And so that's kind of how you mark your look at progress. It doesn't always feel like progress, at the time, but when you kind of look back, so that's the part of the positive. So I'm just an eternal optimist. So I always um, my the lens in which I look through everything, that everything is happening for me, not to me. You know, that's kind of the way I look at everything. And what that means is really just something we can get out of it to grow from. No matter what the experience is, we can take something away if you process it in a way that you're saying, hey, what can I learn from this? What am I supposed to get from this? Because I think even what you were saying, kind of growing up, I believe in my heart of hearts that everything that we go through is not things that are going to happen to us. They were kind of like, and it's kind of hard to say that they were crafted for you to become who you are. You know, that experience is not happenstance. You know, everything is for a reason, and I feel like we're not here for ourselves, and I think that that's the part of people don't get. So they take when bad things happen, they take it personally. We're here for others. We're here, like you just said. You were saying earlier that the things that you went through helped to prepare you to help these younger guys going into the military or going into war or whatever. The things that you went through helped them get through it. You know, so
And to add to the a good point you made, um, you can look at it biblically too. Um, you hear people saying all the time, God prepares you for your next step in life. And I was grown when before I really realized that all of the stuff I went through as a kid prepared me for Vietnam. You might mention I said earlier about I was as afraid as everybody else, but I could fortify myself, and pretend and just to be strong for them. And by the same token, Vietnam helped me for my career. It helped
wow.
me for other things. Um, it helped me for CDC.
So you said that was war.
But each step, each phase of my life prepared me for the next phase. Even such minor things as working with a tough supervisor, and you have to deal with that supervisor. Then you get reassigned, and you go here, and you have a tougher supervisor. But your experience and how you dealt with the other one helps prepare you to deal with that.
Yeah.
And it's not so bad now. You don't react. So you made a good point there, and I'm a good example of that. I mean, I went from being homeless to a good career.
Wow. How to talk about that for a second? How did that come about, or how was that? Not how was it, but how did you overcome that, or at what time did that occur?
Well, that's kind of a strange story, and it's one of the things that I really had shoved back in my mind. And when I started writing my life story,
Mm.
all those memories came back. Um, my dad, as I told you, was military. Right? He he shot my stepmom.
Oh
I
wow,
was living with my living with the stepmom. He came in and he had PTSD. He was in the Korean War,
wow,
and back then we didn't even know what PTSD
right,
was.
right, right.
But see, I remember all of that now too.
Wow,
You know,
wow,
and he had it bad. All right, so after the family split up, he got kicked out of the army. So we would move from place to place, and finally, we was just on the streets, he and I.
wow.
Okay, and somewhere along there's a woman I wish I, I don't know if she's still around now, but I wish she was because I would really want to talk to her now. I can remember one night it was raining, and Dad went to the house and he talked to her, and she came out and she hugged me. She took me in. I was 9 years old.
Wow,
And I
wow,
remember she had a lot of kids. We sat at the table. We ate oatmeal. And
wow,
Lord, that oatmeal tastes so good. I can taste it now. I mean, really.
wow,
And she made me a patty on the floor and I slept. And the next day, Dad put me on the bus and sent me to my grandparents in Alabama. And
wow.
I'm sure she had a lot to do with that.
Mm,
And I just feel I owe her. I don't know who she is
wow,
or what,
wow.
but if she was still around and if she heard this, please contact me.
Wow, you know that is sometimes we do things and we don't even know the impact. I mean,
Mhm.
you said that was 9, so you're probably what 15, 16 right now. So there was this not too far long ago, but but you can remember that all the way back to being 9 years old. You know,
Yes, I
that
do.
is that
Yes, I do.
act of kindness just kind of uh that, and it didn't seem like it was a long period there, but that's a
Mhm.
one day. It sounds like, was it just one day? The one day. So you're there. you, and
with
then the
her.
next day you said your dad sent you to your grandma's, but that kind of made an indelible mark. It seemed like, you know.
Yes, it did because it was a turning point. You know, Dad was going downhill. I mean, he was fighting. People were shooting at him. I can remember, hiding under the bed when we had an apartment, and so, like I said, it was rough.
Wow,
And
wow,
that was a turning point in my life. I might not have survived
wow.
had she not, pushed Dad or even told him, because I'm sure he wasn't thinking,
Right, right,
you
right.
know. And I'm a kid. I didn't know.
Wow. That is interesting. So, and it's a funny thing. Sometimes we never know what someone else not only is going through right now, but what they've gone through. You know,
Exactly.
and I think it's just important that we all, no one or every one of us has a story. I believe that. You know,
Exactly.
um, every one of us, and going back to a point I was making earlier is that a lot of times our battles are really not even for us, but they're to prepare us for the next one, but
Hmm.
to help other people get through, those things as well. So, I do want to ask you kind of, how do you think kind of like generational battles kind of have differed, So like what are fathers fighting for versus what we're fighting for now? What do you see the differences in that?
Well,
Or do you see them being the same almost in some instances?
well, personally, again, my father had PTSD. I never knew my mother. Um, but back then too, you've heard that, and this is a good time to bring it up because this is turning point. You've heard the village concept.
Mm-hmm.
Takes a village.
Yes.
Now, in my family, I believe I'm the last recipient of the village
Wow.
because when my dad sent me there, no one knew I was coming. And see, again, I had pushed all this back, but I got it now. He put a sign around my neck saying, "I'm Theodies Mitchell, and I'm the grandson of Jimmy Washington."
Wow.
Because in that little small town, everyone knew Jimmy Washington,
Wow.
and he knew that. So
Wow.
when I got off the bus, it wasn't even a bus station; it was a service station, and I was just standing there. And the guy was driving by and he stopped and he got out of his car. He read the sign. He said, "Oh, I know Mr. Jimmy. Now get in the car. I'll take you." And he took me to my grandparents.
I'm hearing that. And I'm just thinking that just crazy on 10 levels. You know what I mean? Not like in a good way, just funny that I don't even know if something like that could happen today, I guess. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
You know what I mean?
yeah, too many things.
Yeah. So it's just that, but that is just so, that is bizarre, in a good way yeah, that is just, that's bizarre,
But to finish the generational thing. Now, when I went there, like I said, no one knew I was coming. My grandmother didn't even recognize me. She had to think about it, and then she read the sign. But still, everybody pitched in.
Wow.
I mean, just my whole family, all the people older than me, I mean, I became one of them. In the family, I was the one person that was connected to all of the families.
Wow.
I mean, we had like the tailors. I was a tailor when I was hanging out. When I was there, I ate, I got disciplined, you know, when I was a tarot, when I was with them, when I was a banks. These are major names in my family.
Mm.
But each one, wherever I was, they just accepted me.
Wow.
And that was that. God, I just love that. That was that village concept, and I
Mm.
grew up on that, which also makes me be like I am. I'm giving back. I've been giving back ever since I could. But by the same token, too, that's not going on anymore. We don't have families together. We used to have family reunions with the elders, organizing and giving wisdom. And like now, I've got all this wisdom, and the young people they're watching the phone. It's not important to them. So you talk about a generational gap. I mean, I think I'd call it a media,
Mm.
a media gap.
And you know what? Ironically, we're bridging that gap by you doing
Mhm,
this in a medium that they watch. This is going to be on YouTube. This is on YouTube
mhm,
on other different podcast shows and channels. So, and you just never know at what time they'll come across this and see this and say, "Hey, that was
mhm.
my uncle. That was my, brother. This was whoever." And it's like be able to see that and kind of hear this
Right.
and make the connection too. So it's a great way of you bridging that gap in that way and reaching people where they are. Sometimes we
Right.
got to do
Right.
that. Like I said, I commend you for doing that and just being open enough to share your story and your books and everything. And I do kind of want to ask you: is there like if there any kind of moment in your life when you kind of realized that you were fighting the wrong battle? Did you ever feel like that? And if you did, like, what did you do next to get through that?
Well, um, growing up in this, well, I'll start with this. I mean, there's just so many stories. I mean, I just can't.
Let's go. We got all day. No, we don't. But
Okay, the first time let's go back to when my dad was in the army, and he remarried again. I never knew my mother, and we went to Japan. I started school in Sasebo, Japan,
wow.
and I have pictures where you can see I'm the only little black in the class, first through the third grade. Okay, so from there, I think we went to New York. So again, I mean, I'm not having a big, you know, problem. I can remember in New York when somebody said nigga, I was looking too. but but when I came to Alabama, came back to, Newbern, Alabama, at 10 years old,
Mm.
you know, a white person was just another person.
Right,
I
right,
went to school with her.
right.
A dad and mom associated with her. So my great grandmother and I were home alone. And back then, the doors, doors is open. You could just walk in the house. I I was in the hallway, and a white guy came in, and he says, "Katie here." Now my grandmother was 80 some years old, and again, me coming from the streets of Virginia, after my dad shot my mom. So like I said, I'm skipping, but still, when I was homeless, obviously I had to toughen up.
Right, right.
So he walked in saying, "Is Katie here?" And I looked at him. I said, "No, but Mrs. Washington is here." you're not good. But anyway, um, my grandmama hit me with a cane. Really knocked me out.
Oh, wow.
And that's when she talked. You don't talk to white people that way, and
Mm.
blah. So,
Wow. But you know what? You said something that's very interesting. I think that it's funny that we have to be taught that kind of stuff where,
mhm,
it's like we just natural response when you kind of um just look at everybody the way you're supposed to. If there's just another person, no
mhm,
one's, we're all people. No one person. We should respect everybody, equally, Um, and it's just interesting that when you do have that as an experience, I mean, I was fortunate and blessed to be able to go to a private school, and you just kind of you're on an even playing field. You're not looking at anyone,
mhm.
better or worse. We're just people, and I think it does shape the way you approach the world because you're not looking at it the same way that somebody's,
Exactly.
who doesn't who hasn't kind of grown up or just been around that the whole time. So um, yeah, so that is interesting. So and like I said, you have so many different stories. Um, and I kind of want to know what message when it comes to like the wrong battlefield and when you were writing those poems. Is there like a specific message or theme that you think people would take away, or you want people to take away from reading the wrong battlefield?
Well, it's a story, and it's a progressive story, which is why I took the time to list the years and the location, the city where I was, and and there's so much missing in it too, and initially when I wrote it, I would go to the military bases at the exchange, and they would have the authors set up right at the entrance, and the vets would come by, and people would come by and buy the book and talk to me. What was going on with me though, the vets would get it and they'd read and they'd identify,
Mm,
and then they start talking,
yeah,
and
yeah.
somewhere along the way it got out, that I was a counselor.
Wow.
So then, like, I wasn't selling books anymore. I was getting free. But again, it was all good,
Yeah.
you know,
Yeah.
because like you said, you have to start where the people are.
Yeah.
So if a vet comes up to another vet, we're not going to walk away.
Mm.
We're going to listen to you because we only like talking. We feel better talking to another vet. Talking to someone who understands.
Exactly.
You know,
Exactly.
so
Wow.
so I had to. I stopped because it was just it was too much like work.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I can see how that could be that way, and I'm sure not everybody has the same outlet as you have had all these years to really process that,
Mm,
process whatever. And a lot of people just internalize everything, and when they find an outlet or someone who seems to relate, then sometimes you get the bulk of it because you're
mm,
like an outlet that maybe they've been holding in for a while. You know what I mean? So,
mm. And yeah, the message. You asked about the message. The message with this book to other vets is that you can do it. You can survive. And one day at a time. I did it.
and so, what do you see kind of today as the most important battle for, let's say, Black men today? What would you say is the most important battle for that, or for us?
We've gained a lot. I mean, even in my lifespan, not nevertheless history, but the time that I've been on this world and the things that I've gone through. Now, I mentioned my childhood in the military. It was just we were just people. I was in school. We were just kids.
Right.
And then I had to get indoctrinated to the South and racism and all that stuff. Um, but we got to it, and the place where we got in society today, the gains that we have made as a people and as a race. Uh, right now, all of that seems to be in danger, and that sort of bothers me. Um, I think right now we need to get together. There's black men. We don't have the unity that we. Oh, good. Thank you for asking that. I mean, I'm old, but
Hey, go.
but the one thing that we had when I was young and when I was in Vietnam is unity.
Hmm.
We brothers was together. We didn't walk past each other without speaking or dapping. If we saw a brother in trouble, we helped. No questions asked. We helped. We helped each other. And even back in the States, I can remember my family, the older relatives of mine, we all pitched together and help each other. And like now, in some of the families now, and what you see out there now, it's everybody for themselves. You know, I don't know how. I don't know how it's going to happen, or when it's going to happen, or if it's going to happen. But we need to get that unity back as black men.
So,
I shouldn't walk by you and say hi and you not speak to me,
mhm.
but that's the way it is.
So here's my interesting process on how that even works today. And sometimes, I hate to say it, but sometimes it takes bad situations to foster situations like that.
Mm,
Sometimes I think this climate that we're in today, if you ever felt like, okay, that doesn't apply to me, you can now think differently. Yeah. There's a blanket, thing swept over everything. So I think there's some, I don't know, the eternal optimist in me just feels like that even through this, that again, putting it through that same lens I said earlier, that it may not always be understandable at this moment, but everything is happening for us, even though
mm,
it seems like it's happening to us. So I do believe that there will be some positive things that come out of this situation. And one of those things is sometimes traumatic situations force or foster togetherness or people having to stick together. So I think that there should be some of that going. I do see there are conversations happening to where we're reaching out in other people, other countries, and and banding in that way.
mm,
So sometimes it takes a crazy situation like we're in right now to see the value in that and to just to see. ourselves in each other, because that's really what that was back then, is just seeing if that's happening to them, it's happening to me, you know. And yeah, a lot of that has been, there's a lot of been the disassociation happened, but now
Mhm.
we're seeing, hey, look, this is, you know, we have to wake up and see what's happening, and we could, there's still lots that can be done, you know, to do with that. And like I said, the eternal optimist in me still sees that hope and sees that happening, or sees the ability for that to happen, you know. So
Mhm.
um, I do want to know what kind of advice would you give to someone who's kind of feeling like torn between, you kind of served community and the military, the system, and of course it was different then, but it's still kind of the same. And so we're I think that's a kind of like a pointed thing right now. And so, what advice would you give someone who's kind of feeling torn between, I guess, duty to their community and duty to a system that doesn't seem to value them? You know what I mean?
Mhm.
What are your thoughts or ideas on that?
Well, everyone is different, and everyone has their own goal and their ideas of how to achieve it. Um, the one thing I would say to someone feeling like that is to have them start thinking about what's important to you as an individual, and start there. You know, um, if you have a goal and you want to get to it and you work towards that goal, sometimes other things will just fall into place.
Mm,
As you work towards achieving that goal. And someone that's just helpless, they're not working towards anything. They're just kind of stagnant. But if you're moving and working or achieving or even hoping, that's why religion plays a good part in that
mm,
too.
yes.
It gives people hope, and uh, prayer works, and then that's a form of therapy too.
Mm, yeah.
It's all about that talk. Talk therapy is a big deal today, also. So that's what I would get them to talk about. What's important to you?
Mm.
What do you want? How are you going to do it?
You know what? I think that how you're going to do it thing is a really big thing right now, because we're in this world where there are influences, and social media is a big thing, and people are watching um, the what and not the how. We're
Mhm.
not seeing the journey that people go through. We just see the glory, and then we're seeing a bunch of people who are just showing the best, where they say their best life, but they're not showing the real life or all of the things. Because for one, it's not
Mhm.
possible to do that, but people are only just showing the good things that are happening there. So if you know, I think for us, even for myself, I feel like sometimes you scroll through your feed and you just say, "Man, everybody's doing great, but me." You know, what I mean, it's just like,
Mhm.
I'm doing great things, but I think you just, any one of us can watch through that feed and just feel some type of way. So you have to be able to process that thing. It always looks like someone, no matter where your station is, someone's 10xing it and 3xing or 50xing, or it feels like that, or sometimes it feels like everyone's 10x
Mhm.
but you know what I mean. So I tell people all the time, and I it's something that even the younger generation have, you know, it's more difficult to deal with than even for us. And sometimes we don't think about that, or don't process that, or don't understand that they're watching or seemingly watch their peers, and everyone seems to be doing that. It can definitely have some effect on your psychology, you know, your psyche, on whatever's happening. And I think we forget that everyone's going through something. You're not seeing it, but they're going through something. You know, that person's going through something, and we're just seeing what social media shows you, that nobody's going through anything but me. That's really kind of, so you got to process social media in that way. I think social media is great. I think it's great in so many different ways, but I think that's one way that it's not so great. It's not. It fails people in seeing the journey. You know. So yeah, so it's kind of, I wanted to talk about something else I was going to working on right now, but it's a little bit premature. We got this new social site that I think was that kind of deals with that, answers that, but I'm not going to get into that right now. But I do have my my final question for you, and I want to know, for you, what does it mean to kind of to fight? You kind of reference this in your work. Is what does it mean to kind of fight from love rather than fear or pain?
Fight for love rather than feel
Fight
pain.
from love.
Oh, from
Right,
love.
as opposed to fear or pain. You know, because I think there's things that we fight for, and there's things that we fight because of. something. You know what I mean?
Right.
They seem like the same, but they're really not always the same.
Well, I agree with you. They are different. If I'm fighting for love, I mean, like let's say a scenario, I'm helping someone that's family and someone I really care for. I'm gonna do everything I can to help. Versus being told to do something that I don't necessarily want to do, but have to do it. Uh, well, I can go back to my job in CDC. When I reached the point to where we were working with people. I was like a public health advisor. I give you money, the state's money, and then you tell me how you're going to use it, how you're going to benefit your state, blah blah blah. But still, there were interactions, and I love that. I just love
Mm.
dealing with people and talking. And then all of a sudden, we got algorithms, and they have to meet all of these
Hmm.
algorithms. So the conversation didn't need to take place now because they filled in the form and you reviewed the form, and the job got boring then.
Wow. Wow.
So again, things that I did from love, and a lot of them is reflected in my book. You can tell a happy poem versus a not so happy poem in my books, in my works. Period.
Wow.
So, um, and dealing from a place of love. Uh, right now, I'm trying to find my mother's people
Mm.
and trying to find out what happened. Why was I not with my mother? And it's kind of hard to get answers on that. Uh,
Yeah. So how are you? I guess you're. Well, I don't know. I guess I don't know how you're processing that. How are you? Yeah.
well, it's not easy. You can see how scatterbrained I am.
You're doing great. I'm seriously. You're doing a wonderful job. You know.
But I'm on that ancestry.com, and I've met a lot of people, and in fact, one happy moment is I after all of my uncles and aunts died, they died pretty close together within a few years, and all of a sudden, I'm one of the older people.
Wow.
I'm one of the elders.
Wow.
All of a sudden, and what I enjoyed was going home and talking to my uncles and aunties because they are. Remember, I was talking about the village.
Hmm.
I didn't have a mom nor dad, but I had all of them,
Wow.
and one by one they were gone, and so I was just out there, you know, and all of a sudden, I found out my dad had a half sister.
Mm.
He probably has more than that, and because after I found out who my granddaddy was, he was I think James Brown knew him when he wrote that song.
Oh,
Papa was a
yeah. Yeah.
rooster.
Yeah. Yeah.
So now I have an aunt that I'm communicating with,
Wow.
and I'm so happy about that.
Wow.
So, you know, that's family. And then, that there's a point to where, I've grown to realize it is what it is. And for me right now, it's just one day at a time. Try to live the rest of my life as enjoyable and do as much as I can while I can. That's my motto.
Mm. And you know what? I think we have a choice of the things that we. I have this thing that I say, and I say that happiness and sadness are not emotions but decisions. You know,
Mm-hmm.
so we don't ever get to control what happens to us. We only get to control our response to it. That's it. And our response is what makes us happy or sad. You know, how are we going to respond to it?
Mm-hmm.
We can't respond to somebody coming and punching your face that you didn't expect, but
Right.
you can control how you're going to respond to that. And so that's what leads to a more fulfilling life, in my opinion, is your response to that. And so we could fight hard for the things that we want, but we're not really always tied to the outcome. We have to be okay with that. And that sometimes it's tough to just say, listen, we just can control the things that we can control, and the things you can't should not control you. You know, and so if you kind of live through that much, I think it just makes it easier because I was just having a really powerful conversation similar to this with my daughter the earliest morning, and we're talking about things that happen, that are happening, and I kind of liken it to rain. And that's even also something. The rain rains on everybody. I don't care if you're great person, bad person, whatever. Rain happens to everybody. You know, when it rains, no one's missed. It happens to everybody. And I think some people internalize pain that way. They think that it's only raining on me, and no, it's raining on everybody. You know, when
Mm-hmm.
it rains on everybody. And so it's about you. We can't do anything about the rain, but you can get an umbrella. You can get a jacket. You can stay in the house. You know, you can't control the rain, but you can control how you're going to deal with it. So I don't know if that makes sense with all of
Oh,
that, but
yes, it does.
uh,
Yes, it does. When um, you know, I developed strategies for my life now, and one of the strategies I have when I really start feeling bad or really struggling about the fate of the world and all this good stuff that I shouldn't even be thinking about, I can go to the VA and walk around the VA. And every time I'm going to walk out feeling better because, no matter what issues I think I have or I have, you know, I can see somebody that's worse off than I am. And it's a reminder.
yeah,
And that helps me.
yeah,
And
yeah,
then too, it makes me want to give back more too.
yeah, yeah.
That's why I volunteered when I first got my master's in counseling. I volunteered at the vet center counseling Vietnam vets, and that helped me too.
Wow. The funny thing is, I don't know how often this is talked about, but helping has a boomerang effect. Saying something kind,
Mm-hmm.
doing something nice has a boomerang effect. It helps you just as much as it helps other people.
Yes.
And you know what? How much does it cost to say something nice to a person? It costs nothing. But the benefit, I think, is big. You know, you help someone else, and even if they respond or they don't respond, it's okay. But like I said, it's hard to smile at somebody and them not smile back at you for the most part. So doing, I don't know, I still feel like doing kind acts or doing things like that always uh, helps you as much as it helps that other person. And I hope that lady who helped you when you were 9 got blessed. And sometimes we like put stuff in a bank and it gets comes back to us not from that same person
Mm-hmm.
but somewhere else. But yeah, these are just, man, this is a powerful conversation. There's a lot of really good nuggets, and I just want to say I wish we had more time. We're kind of running out of time. It just went like this, you know what I mean? But it was powerful. I wanted to say thank you for coming on. It truly has been an honor, and I want to say to our audience, don't just fight harder, fight smarter. So the wrong battlefield will drain your time, your talent, really, and your treasure. So the right one will multiply your legacy. So make sure you get both of Theodides' books, The Heart of a Bull, and also The Wrong Battlefield. And again, with you too, I want to make sure until next time. As a matter of fact, we want to tell people that if they want to get your books, they can go to your website, authortheodismitchell.com, right? And they can order both these books, get both if you can. But before we close out, is there anything else that you want to say in closing? If someone wants to get in touch with you, they want to order your books, or just send you a message of encouragement or anything like that, or want to be encouraged, well, how do people get in contact with you? What are your social media stuff? Do you get much on social media, or how do people get in contact with you?
Um, Usually on Facebook, but um uh, I'm on some lists. Like for instance, our class, our family, and I guess Facebook or my website.
On your website,
And you didn't mention my other book.
the new up and coming one, the new the journey. Give us the new book that's coming out next month, and what is it called again?
A poetical journey through my life.
And so let's end that on what that's about. What Tell us about that one.
It's it's my life story, and it just in poetry,
Gotcha.
and poems go all the way back to childhood, and I just tried to format them in a way that it's a beautiful story.
Wow.
It's poetical, but I'm kind of proud of
Wow.
it.
Wow. And so they can get all three. You can get all three of his books at authortheodismitchell.com. Go out there, get the books. Again, if you uh, are going through anything or not going through something, maybe you like poetry, you want to be able to just read things, different kinds of poetry, or if you want to go through and you kind of see how you could be processing your um, whatever's going on in your life, poems are a really great way to do that. you can read his work, and perhaps it could inspire you to want to pen some of your own things as well. And so I think that's great. So I want to say thank you for sharing that. Thanks for coming in, spending some time here. And for those of you who are following me, make sure you like, follow, and subscribe to um, Mind Your Business, rather, on all the channels that you get podcasts. You can find me on all social medias at Mind Your Biz Expert. And until next time, mind your business because no one else will do it for you. This is Max Fortune. Stay sharp, stay focused, and again, always mind your business. We're out of here.